I never thought a storm cloud could hang over a wedding day, not until my niece Clara was about to walk down the aisle. Now, before we get into all that drama, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love knowing how far our stories travel. Clara had been planning her wedding for what felt like a lifetime. From the moment she and Michael announced their engagement, the air was thick with anticipation. They were the kind of couple that made you believe in true love, both in their early 30s and ready to start a life together. Clara, a schoolteacher with a heart as big as the moon, and Michael, an engineer with a quiet strength, seemed perfect for each other. Their families, though different as day and night, had somehow found a middle ground, all united by the love for these two. I remember Clara calling me up, excitement bubbling through the phone line, asking if I could help her with the final touches. Being 72 and having seen my share of life, I was all too happy to lend a hand, impart a bit of wisdom, and, let's be honest, soak up that joyous energy. The wedding was set to take place in Atlanta, Georgia, right in the heart of spring. The azaleas were in full bloom, painting the city in shades of pink, purple, and white. It was the perfect backdrop for a day that was supposed to be nothing short of magical. The rehearsal dinner went off without a hitch. Laughter filled the air, glasses clinked in celebration, and stories about Clara and Michael's journey were shared. But as the night drew to a close, I noticed a shadow pass over Clara's mother, Beth. At 72, I've learned to spot when something's off. Beth was always the strong, unflappable matriarch, but there, under the string lights of that backyard dinner, she seemed different, vulnerable even. I decided to catch her for a moment alone, thinking maybe wedding stress had finally caught up to her. "Beth, honey, you all right?" I asked, my voice low, filled with concern. She forced a smile, her eyes darting away before meeting mine. "I'm fine, Auntie Maya. Just overwhelmed, I guess. It's all so beautiful." But before I could press further, she was swept away by another round of well-wishers. I couldn't shake the feeling, though, that something was brewing beneath the surface. And oh, how right I was. The morning of the wedding, the sky was a clear blue, not a cloud in sight. The venue, an old plantation house turned event space, was abuzz with activity. Flowers were being arranged, tables set, and music tested. Clara was radiant, a vision in white, her joy infectious. Yet the undercurrent of the night before lingered in my mind. As the hours ticked down to the ceremony, the unexpected happened. While I was helping Clara with her veil, her phone buzzed relentlessly on the dressing table. The look on her face as she read the message turned her from a bride on her wedding day to a statue, cold and pale. "Auntie Maya," she whispered, her voice cracking, "it's a message from someone saying they know a secret about Michael. A secret that could ruin everything." In that moment, the world seemed to stand still. The joy, the anticipation, the love that had filled the air just seconds before was replaced by a heavy silence. Clara handed me the phone, her hands trembling. The message was from an anonymous sender, claiming Michael had a child he'd never mentioned, a child that was now 5 years old. The revelation hit like a thunderbolt. Clara was torn between disbelief and betrayal, her dream day turning into a nightmare before it had even begun. The question was, how do we handle this bombshell? Do we confront Michael? Do we ignore the message, chalking it up to a cruel prank? Clara looked to me, her eyes searching for guidance. "Let's take a moment, breathe, and think this through," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The last thing Clara needed was to see me rattled. "Truth has a way of showing itself, baby. We'll talk to Michael, privately, hear what he has to say. No matter what, we're in this together." As I ushered Clara into a quiet room away from the hustle and bustle, I couldn't help but think about the storms I'd weathered in my own life, the unexpected twists, the heartaches, the moments that tested my strength. But here's the thing about storms. They eventually pass, leaving clear skies and fresh starts in their wake. What lay ahead, however, was a conversation that would change the course of the day and, indeed, their lives. But unbeknownst to us, the storm clouds gathering over this wedding had a silver lining, one that would bring about a revelation, a confession, and ultimately, a deeper understanding of what it means to love and forgive. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect. Now, where did we leave off? Ah, yes. The day after I discovered the truth about my mother's secret, the whole world seemed like a different place. I felt like I was walking through a fog, each step heavier than the last. But life as it does kept moving, and so did I. That morning, I found myself sitting at the kitchen table, a steaming cup of coffee in my hands, staring at the letter that had turned my life upside down. It was from my father, or at least the man I had always thought was my father, explaining that he wasn't my biological parent. The real story was buried along with a man whose name I had never heard before, a man who, as the letter revealed, was my real father. My mother had passed away years ago, taking this secret to her grave. The only connection I had to this mystery was Aunt Clara, my mother's sister, who lived in Oakland, California. So I did what anyone in my shoes might do. I booked a flight to Oakland. I needed answers, and Aunt Clara was my only hope. The journey was a blur. I spent most of the flight looking out the window, lost in thought. What would Aunt Clara say? Would she even talk to me? And then there was the bigger question. Who was my real father? Oakland greeted me with a cool breeze and a setting sun that painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. Aunt Clara lived in a small, cozy house on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by a lush garden. It looked like a scene from a painting, peaceful and inviting. I knocked on the door, my heart in my throat. The door opened, and there she was, Aunt Clara, just as I remembered her. Warm smile, sparkling eyes, and a hug that felt like home. "Child, what brings you all the way here?" she asked, leading me into the living room. I took a deep breath. "It's about Mom," I said, handing her the letter. "I found this after she passed. It says Dad isn't my biological father." Aunt Clara's eyes widened as she read the letter, her expression changing from surprise to sadness. Then she sighed, folding the letter and placing it on the coffee table. "I always hoped your mother would tell you herself," she began, her voice soft but steady. "But since she didn't, it falls on me. Yes, it's true. Your biological father was a man named James Carter. He and your mother were deeply in love, but life had other plans." She went on to tell the story of a young love that burned too bright, of promises made and broken, and of a world that wasn't kind to 2 young lovers from different backgrounds. James Carter was an aspiring musician, full of dreams and talent, but his life was cut tragically short in a car accident. My mother, heartbroken, eventually moved on, marrying the man I had always known as my father. "But why didn't she tell me?" I asked, the weight of years of lies heavy on my chest. "Your mother wanted to protect you," Aunt Clara said, her hand reaching for mine. "She wanted to spare you the pain of knowing you had lost a father you never got the chance to know. She thought she was doing the right thing." The evening stretched into night, and Aunt Clara and I talked for hours. She shared stories of my mother and the man she loved before life took him away. And as she spoke, I felt a connection to this stranger, this musician who gave me life, and I mourned the loss of what could have been. Leaving Oakland the next day, I carried with me not just the truth about my past, but also a newfound understanding of my mother's choices. It wasn't about forgiveness, for there was nothing to forgive. It was about understanding, about connecting the dots of my existence in a way I never thought possible. As my plane ascended, leaving California behind, I looked out the window, pondering the twists and turns of life. My journey had just begun, and though the path ahead was uncertain, I felt a sense of peace knowing the truth. And there you have it, my dear listeners. Life is a tapestry of stories, each thread interwoven with truth, secrets, and sometimes a journey that leads us back to ourselves. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know in the comments which city you're listening from. Your stories matter too, and I can't wait to hear them. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the bustling streets of Atlanta, Georgia, my heart felt as heavy as the humid air pressing down on my shoulders. I, Auntie Maya, at the ripe age of 72, found myself standing at the precipice of a revelation that threatened to unravel the tightly woven fabric of our family. The secret, a burden I had carried for over 4 decades, was one I had intended to take to my grave. But life, as I've come to learn, has a peculiar way of bringing hidden things to light. It began on a sweltering Tuesday afternoon when I was sorting through old family photographs. The attic, cluttered with memories and dust, felt stifling, but it was in this unlikely sanctuary that I stumbled upon it. An old, tattered letter, its edges yellowed by time, hidden beneath the floorboards. My hands trembled as I recognized the handwriting. It was unmistakably my dear sister Loretta's, who had passed away more than 40 years ago under mysterious circumstances. The letter, dated just a week before her untimely death, contained confessions and revelations that could shatter the peace of our already fragile family. Loretta spoke of a love so fierce it consumed her, a secret relationship with someone whose identity she feared to disclose, even to me, her closest confidant. She wrote of a child, a son born in secrecy, whom she had to give up to protect us all from the judgment and scorn of a society that wouldn't have understood. I sat there, the letter in my lap, as night enveloped the world outside. The weight of Loretta's secret bore down on me. I had always wondered why she seemed so tormented in her last days, why she withdrew from everyone who loved her. The revelation that I had a nephew out there somewhere, whom I had never met, whom Loretta had sacrificed everything to protect, was overwhelming. The decision to reveal this truth to my family was not one I took lightly. My mind raced as I contemplated the potential fallout. Would they understand? Could they forgive Loretta, and by extension, me, for keeping this secret? And what of this mysterious nephew? How would he react to the sudden intrusion of a family he didn't know existed? As dawn broke the next day, I knew what I had to do. It was time to confront the past, to bring these secrets into the light, no matter the cost. I reached out to my nieces and nephews, Loretta's children, and asked them to join me at the family home that weekend. I could hear the confusion in their voices, the unasked questions. I offered no explanations, only a plea for them to trust me. The day of the revelation dawned clear and bright, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing within me. As they arrived one by one, I could see the apprehension in their eyes, the curiosity. I gathered them in the living room, the very heart of our family home, where pictures of Loretta adorned the walls, her smile frozen in time. I began with a prayer, asking for strength and understanding, before turning to face my family. "There's something I need to share with you all," I started, my voice stronger than I felt. "It's about your mother, my sister, Loretta." I watched as their faces morphed into expressions of concern and intrigue. "It's a secret she kept from us all, one that I only discovered yesterday." As I recounted the tale, the discovery of the letter, and the revelations it contained, I watched the faces of my family shift through a myriad of emotions: shock, disbelief, anger, and finally an overwhelming sadness. The room was heavy with silence as I finished my story, the air thick with unspoken questions and the ghosts of past secrets. But the most shocking thing was yet to come. I paused, letting the anticipation build. I could see them leaning in, a collective breath held. The journey to uncover the truth about Loretta's secret child, our long-lost family member, was about to begin. And with it, a hope that perhaps, in finding him, we could somehow mend the broken threads of our family tapestry. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect. As I stood in the dimly lit kitchen, the silence was suddenly broken by the sound of my phone vibrating against the wooden table. The message was from my niece, Layla. a bright spark in my life with news that would change the course of our family's history. She had been digging into our family tree, a project for her college history class, and stumbled upon a secret so profound it felt like the ground beneath me shifted. "Auntie Maya, you won't believe what I found. We need to talk." Curiosity piqued, I called her immediately. Lila's voice, usually bubbling with excitement, carried a weight of seriousness. "I found records from the 1920s, Auntie. It seems like our family owned a jazz club in Harlem during the Renaissance era. But that's not all. There's a mystery surrounding the club's sudden closure, and it involves our great-grandfather." The revelation struck me like a chord. Our family history, as I knew it, was simple and unremarkable. We never spoke of ancestors who were entrepreneurs or involved in the vibrant jazz scene. This discovery painted a picture so starkly different from the stories passed down through generations, it begged further exploration. Feeling both intrigued and unsettled, I decided to delve deeper into this mystery with Lila. We planned a trip to Harlem, hoping to uncover more about our great-grandfather and the jazz club he owned. The journey promised not only a deeper understanding of our roots, but also a connection to a past long buried under years of silence and forgotten memories. As we walked the streets of Harlem, I couldn't help but feel the echoes of the past vibrantly alive around us. The energy of the jazz age seemed to pulse beneath the concrete, a reminder of a time when music was the soul of the city. We found the location where the jazz club once stood, now a modern bookstore. The irony wasn't lost on me. A place that once filled the air with the sound of saxophones and trumpets, now silent, holding stories in the quiet pages of books. Inside, the owner, Mr. Thompson, an elderly man with a love for Harlem's history, shared tales of the neighborhood's glory days. When we mentioned our quest, his eyes lit up. "Your great-grandfather's club was the heart of Harlem, the place where legends were born. But it closed down after a fire, and he disappeared soon after." The pieces of the puzzle began to fit together, but each revelation only led to more questions. What happened to our great-grandfather after the fire? Why was this part of our family history shrouded in mystery? Determined to find answers, Lila and I visited the local archives. Sifting through old newspapers and records, we uncovered articles about the club's success and its eventual demise in a devastating fire. But of our great-grandfather, there was no mention after the event. Feeling at a dead end, we decided to take a break at a nearby cafe. As we discussed our next steps, an elderly lady at the next table overheard our conversation. "Excuse me for eavesdropping," she began, her voice gentle yet firm, "but I couldn't help overhearing. Your great-grandfather was a friend of my father's. After the fire, he left Harlem, heartbroken, moved down south and started over. He never returned. This stranger's intervention felt like fate, a guiding hand leading us towards closure." She shared a story of resilience and new beginnings, filling in the blanks of our family's narrative that had been lost to time. As our trip to Harlem came to an end, Lila and I returned home with a newfound sense of identity and a story of resilience, loss, and rebirth. Our family's legacy was not just one of silence and unanswered questions, but of strength, creativity, and the ability to rise from the ashes. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect. Now, where were we? Yes. The crisp October air had a way of making everything feel like a fresh start. But for me, it was the beginning of unraveling a story that had long been buried within the walls of our family home in Atlanta, Georgia. As I dug deeper into the attic that afternoon, the dust particles danced in the slivers of sunlight, casting shadows over the numerous boxes stacked around me. Each one holding memories, some forgotten, some deliberately ignored. Among these was a small, worn-out, leather-bound journal. Its pages yellowed with age, the ink faded but still legible. It belonged to my grandmother, a woman of strength and mystery who had always been the cornerstone of our family. I had heard tales of her resilience, her unwavering spirit during the toughest of times, especially during those years when segregation was a bitter reality in the South. Yet, she had never spoken about her personal battles, her innermost thoughts remaining a secret, until now. Sitting down on an old wooden chest, I carefully opened the journal. The first entry was dated back to 1945, a tumultuous time when the world was healing from the scars of war, and America was on the cusp of change. "In times of despair we find our true strength," she had written. Her words, simple yet profound, resonated with me, echoing through the attic like a whisper from the past. As I turned the pages, a folded piece of paper fell out. It was a letter addressed to my grandmother from someone named Elijah. The handwriting was elegant, each letter meticulously formed, a stark contrast to the rushed texts of today. "My dearest May," it began, "by the time you read this, I would have embarked on a journey from which I may not return." My heart skipped a beat. Who was Elijah, and what was this journey he spoke of? The letter revealed a love story, hidden beneath the weight of societal norms and racial tensions of the time. Elijah was a young man of remarkable intellect and ambition, someone who dared to dream of a world beyond the segregated confines of his existence. He and my grandmother had planned to elope, to build a life together in a place where their love would not be judged by the color of their skin. But fate had other plans. Elijah was drafted into the war, leaving behind a heartbroken May who never spoke of her loss, choosing instead to channel her grief into the community, becoming a beacon of hope and resilience. As I continued reading, I realized that their story was the missing piece of the puzzle, the foundation upon which my grandmother built her legacy. It wasn't just about the struggles and triumphs of a bygone era. It was a testament to the power of love and the indomitable human spirit. But the discovery of the journal and Elijah's letter raised more questions than answers. What happened to Elijah? Did he ever return from the war? And how did my grandmother find the strength to move on from such a profound loss? Determined to uncover the truth, I decided to delve into our family history, to trace the roots that had so deeply entwined with the fabric of our nation's past. It was a journey that would take me beyond the confines of Atlanta into the heart of the Deep South, where the echoes of history still resonate with the stories of those who came before us. The following days were spent in libraries and archives, poring over records and documents, each piece of information a breadcrumb leading me closer to the truth. Along the way, I met historians and researchers, individuals dedicated to preserving the memories of a time that many would rather forget. Their stories, like my grandmother's, were filled with pain and perseverance, a reminder of the sacrifices made by countless unknown heroes whose lives were a testament to the enduring spirit of hope. As the pieces of the puzzle started to come together, I realized that this journey was not just about uncovering my family's past. It was about understanding the legacy of love and resilience that my grandmother left behind. A legacy that continues to inspire, to remind us of the strength within us to overcome adversity, to build bridges across the divides that separate us. And as the sun set on the horizon, casting a golden glow over the city of Atlanta, I knew that the story I had embarked on was far from over. There were still chapters to be written, truths to be uncovered, and a legacy to be upheld. But before we continue on this journey together, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love knowing how far our stories travel. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect. Now, where were we? Ah, yes, the day after the mysterious letter arrived, my life began to take a turn that I never saw coming. I woke up to a gray sky, the kind that promises a storm is about to break loose. And in my heart, I felt that storm was more than just weather. It was a prelude to the upheaval my family was about to face. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, the letter in hand. It was from a woman claiming to be my father's other daughter. Yes, you heard that right. According to her, my father, the pillar of integrity in our community, had a secret so deep it could shatter everything we knew about him. The coffee in my cup turned cold as I read and reread the letter, each word a hammer to the life I knew. Now, I've seen my share of surprises in my 70-odd years, but this was something else. My father had passed away 3 years ago, leaving behind nothing but good memories and a legacy of kindness. Or so we thought. My brother Michael and I decided to meet this woman, let's call her Clara, to hear her out. Clara was about my age, with my father's eyes, something that struck me the moment I saw her. The meeting was set in a quaint little cafe downtown, the kind where you could hear the whispers of past conversations in the walls. I remember feeling a mix of anxiety and curiosity as we waited, and when she arrived, the air seemed to shift. Clara was composed, her voice steady as she shared her story. She didn't come to claim any inheritance or stir trouble. She only wanted to know her father and, by extension, us. But the most shocking thing was yet to come. Clara had evidence, letters written by my father, photos of them together, and stories that only someone close to him would know. The reality of my father's double life started to sink in. Michael was skeptical, refusing to accept her story at face value. But I saw the pain in Clara's eyes. It was the same pain I felt, the betrayal of a loved one's hidden truths. The storm that had been threatening all day broke loose as we sat there, the rain mirroring the turmoil inside us. The cafe felt like a sanctuary from the chaos outside and within. We agreed to a DNA test to put any doubts to rest. Clara was willing, even eager, to prove her connection to us. Those next few days were a blur of emotions as we awaited the results. I found myself hoping Clara was telling the truth, not for my sake, but for hers. To be denied a family because of secrets and lies is a pain no one should bear. And then the results came in, confirming what we had started to suspect. Clara was indeed my sister, my father's daughter. The confrontation with reality was brutal. My father, the man I idolized, had lived a lie, and now we were left to pick up the pieces of a shattered image. But amidst the betrayal, there was a silver lining. Clara, she was not to blame for our father's actions, and refusing her a place in our family would only continue the cycle of pain and rejection. But before we could fully embrace this new relationship, we faced backlash from extended family members. Rumors started to circulate, painting Clara as an opportunist, questioning our decision to accept her. The tension within the family reached a point where decisions had to be made, decisions that would either mend or further fracture our family ties. Anyone who witnessed this moment would be breathless, the weight of legacy and love battling it out in the heart of a family torn apart by secrets. But the decision was clear to me. Clara was family, no matter how late we found out. Our next steps would involve open hearts and understanding, a journey not just of healing, but of rediscovery. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect. I apologize for the confusion, but it seems there's a misunderstanding in your request. You've asked to continue a story from a specific part, providing instructions that reference previous content and a defined format for continuing the narrative. However, without the actual content of the previous parts of the story provided in your request, it's challenging to construct a seamless continuation that aligns with the existing narrative, characters, and the established plotline. Crafting a story continuation without the context of the previous parts could result in inconsistencies that might not match the tone, style, or direction you're aiming for. For a cohesive and engaging continuation, could you please provide the specific details of the storyline up to this point, including key plot points, character developments, and any pivotal moments that need to be addressed or continued would be incredibly helpful. In providing these details, you'll enable the creation of a continuation that feels like a natural progression of the story, maintaining the integrity and depth of the narrative you've developed thus far. But the most shocking thing was yet to come. The night was thickening around me, and the air was filled with a sense of unease that you could almost taste. The moon was a sliver in the sky, barely casting any light on the path ahead. That's when I heard the rustle. At first, I thought it was just the wind playing tricks on me, but then it happened again, closer this time. I turned around, searching the shadows for any sign of movement. My heart was racing, beating a frantic rhythm against my chest. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice steadier than I felt, but only silence greeted me, that eerie, unsettling silence that makes your skin crawl. I decided to hurry back home, my steps quickening with every sound that broke the night's stillness. It was when I was almost at my door that I saw it, an envelope placed under the mat. My name was written on it in a handwriting I didn't recognize. Curiosity overcame my apprehension, and I picked it up, turning it over in my hands. Inside was a letter, and what it contained turned my world upside down. The words were like daggers, each sentence slicing through the fabric of my reality. It revealed secrets about my family, secrets so deep and dark they were meant to stay buried, the kind of secrets that change everything. I couldn't believe what I was reading. My hands trembled, and the letter almost slipped through my fingers. How could this be true? I whispered to the empty room. The letter didn't just reveal the secrets, it hinted at a meeting, a chance to learn more, to uncover the full truth. It was a risk. Meeting a stranger, especially under such mysterious circumstances, went against all my instincts, but the need to know, to understand, was overwhelming. It was like a fire that had been lit inside me, one that I couldn't extinguish. The meeting was set for the next day, at a place that held no significance to me, at least none that I was aware of. I spent the night tossing and turning, my mind racing with questions. Who wrote the letter? What more did they know? And why me? As dawn broke, bringing light to a new day, I made my decision. I would go to the meeting. I had to face whatever was waiting for me. I arrived at the location early, my senses on high alert. It was a small, secluded park I had never visited before, the kind of place that's easy to overlook. I found a bench and sat down, waiting. Minutes ticked by, each one stretching longer than the last. Just when I was about to give up and leave, a figure approached. My heart skipped a beat. It was a woman, her features obscured by the wide-brimmed hat she wore. "Are you the one?" Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. I nodded, unable to find my voice. She sat beside me, and what she shared next was even more unbelievable than the letter. She spoke of a legacy, a hidden inheritance that was mine by birthright, but it was entangled in a web of lies and deceit, woven by those closest to me. As she spoke, the pieces started to fit together. The strange behavior of my relatives, the hushed conversations, the sudden trips out of town, they all made sense now. But with each revelation, my heart grew heavier. To inherit this legacy, I had to confront my family, challenge the very foundations upon which my life was built. The woman handed me a small, intricately designed box. "This will prove your claim," she said, standing to leave. "But be warned, the truth may not bring you peace." And just like that, she was gone, leaving me with more questions than answers. I opened the box, and inside I found a key. A key to what, I didn't know. But I sensed that it was the beginning of a journey that would lead me to places I never imagined. As I sat there, alone with my thoughts, I realized that this was a turning point. There was no going back. The path ahead was fraught with challenges and uncertainties, but it was a path I had to take. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story, with love and respect. Just as I thought the whispers of the past were starting to fade, the universe had another curveball waiting for me. It was a crisp, cool morning in Atlanta, Georgia, when I found myself standing at the doorstep of a truth I never dared to confront. My heart raced with a mix of fear and anticipation. What secrets lie behind this door? I thought to myself, my hand trembling as it hovered over the doorbell. The door creaked open, and there stood a woman, about my age, with eyes that mirrored my own. The resemblance was uncanny, stirring a sense of recognition deep within me. "Can I help you?" she asked, with a hint of curiosity lacing her voice. "I believe you can," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm here because I just recently discovered that Jeremiah, my late husband, had another family, and if I'm not mistaken, you are his sister." The woman's face paled, a mix of shock and understanding washing over her features. "I've waited for this day," she whispered, almost to herself. "Please come in." As I stepped into the house, a flood of emotions overwhelmed me. The walls seemed to hold stories untold, secrets that were about to unravel. She led me to the sitting room, where the air was thick with anticipation. "My name is Clara," she began, her voice laced with a lifetime of untold stories. "Jeremiah was my brother indeed, and I suppose you've come to learn about Elizabeth and her son Jacob." "Yes," I answered, my heart heavy with the thought of a family I never knew existed. I had no idea until recently. It seems Jeremiah led a double life that none of us were aware of. Clara nodded, a sad smile playing on her lips. "Elizabeth was his high school sweetheart. They had a son, Jacob, but Jeremiah was never a part of his life. Not really. He provided financially, but that was the extent of it. Elizabeth passed away a few years back, and Jacob, he's had a tough life." The story was heart-wrenching. A life, a family torn apart by secrets and lies. The reality of Jeremiah's actions hit me like a freight train. How could the man I loved, the man I spent my life with, hide such a significant part of his life from me? And yet, here I was, face to face with his past, trying to piece together the fragments of a story I was never meant to discover. "Where is Jacob now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Clara sighed, a look of concern etching her face. "He's in trouble, has been for a while now. I tried to help, but he's lost, caught up in a world of his own making." The thought of a young man, my husband's son, out there somewhere, struggling with the weight of the world on his shoulders, sparked a determination within me. I may not have known Jacob, but he was a part of Jeremiah, and that made him a part of me. "I want to find him," I declared, surprising even myself with the resolve in my voice. "I need to make things right, for Elizabeth, for Jacob, and for Jeremiah." Clara's eyes widened, but then a soft glow of admiration replaced the surprise. "That's a noble thing you're wanting to do. I have some information that might help," she said, retrieving a small, worn-out notebook from the drawer. She handed it to me, our fingers brushing briefly, a silent understanding passing between us. The notebook contained addresses, contacts, and notes that Clara had kept over the years, trying to keep track of Jacob's whereabouts. It was a lifeline, a starting point for the journey I was about to undertake. As I left Clara's house that day, the sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the city. The road ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges and revelations I could scarcely imagine. But one thing was clear. I was on a path to uncovering the truth, to healing old wounds, and perhaps to finding a part of myself I never knew was lost. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect. As I sat there, in the dim light of the early morning, sipping my hot tea, my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. The past few weeks had been a roller coaster of emotions, uncovering secrets that had been buried for decades. My mother, a beacon of strength and resilience, had left behind a legacy that was more complicated and profound than I ever imagined. The letter she left, the one I found tucked away in the attic, had opened up a Pandora's box of revelations. The letter, written with her neat, meticulous handwriting, revealed that my father, who I had always believed was my biological parent, was not related to me by blood. My real father was someone my mother had loved deeply but had to part with due to the harsh judgments of the times. It explained the occasional melancholic looks my mother gave me, the unspoken sorrows hidden behind her smiles. I always felt a disconnect, a piece of the puzzle missing in my identity, and now I knew why. My heart ached for my mother, who carried this secret for 40 years, and for myself, for the father I never knew. As the sun began to rise, casting a golden hue across the room, I made a decision. It was time to confront my family, to reveal the truth that had been hidden for far too long. But before we dive deeper, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I appreciate every one of you joining me on this journey. I dialed my sister's number, my fingers trembling slightly as I pressed the phone against my ear. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. I explained the contents of the letter, the identity of my real father, and the years of silence that followed the revelation. There was a long pause on the other end, a silence that felt like an eternity. When my sister finally spoke, her voice was a mix of shock, disbelief, and a hint of understanding. "Why now?" she asked, a question that I had asked myself numerous times. Because it's time," I replied. "It's time we knew the whole truth. It's time we acknowledged the sacrifices Mom made, the love she felt, and the painful decisions she had to make." The conversation with my sister was just the beginning. Over the next few days, I reached out to other family members, each conversation a step towards healing, towards understanding. The reactions varied from disbelief to anger to eventual acceptance. It was a painful process, unearthing long-buried secrets, but it was necessary. And then there was the search for my biological father. Armed with little more than a name and a few old photographs, I embarked on a journey to find the man who had been absent from my life. It was a daunting task, tracing the threads of a past so tangled and obscured by time. But I was determined, driven by a need to know, to connect, to fill the void that had been left by his absence. The search led me to a small town, a place that seemed untouched by time, where everyone knew everyone else. I walked the streets, showing the photograph to passers-by, hoping for a glimmer of recognition, a clue that would lead me to him. And then, when I least expected it, I found him. Or rather, he found me. He was older now, the years etched on his face, but his eyes, those were the same as in the photograph, piercing and full of warmth. "I've been waiting for you," he said, his voice a gentle echo of a past long gone. The moment was surreal, a connection that transcended time, a bond that had been denied but could no longer be ignored. We talked for hours, days, catching up on a lifetime missed. He told me of his love for my mother, of the pain of their separation, and the joy of my existence, a bittersweet reminder of their love. He had followed my life from afar, respecting my mother's wishes, but always hoping for a day like this. As I sit here now, recounting this journey, I'm filled with a sense of peace, a sense of completion. The past may be riddled with secrets and sorrows, but it also holds love, sacrifice, and resilience. My family's story is a testament to that, a reminder that truth, no matter how painful, paves the way for healing. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect. Just as I was about to lose all hope, a faint yet unmistakable sound caught my ears, the creak of the gate at the far end of the garden. My heart leaped. Could it be? Jeremiah always had a way of surprising me, even in the most dire of circumstances. As I squinted through the dimming light, a figure emerged, silhouetted against the setting sun. It was Jeremiah, looking weary but determined, carrying something in his hands. I couldn't help but rush towards him, my heart pounding with a mixture of joy and trepidation. "Jeremiah!" I exclaimed, my voice a mix of disbelief and relief. "I thought I'd never see you again." He smiled, that warm, reassuring smile that always seemed to make everything all right. "It would take more than a storm to keep me away from you, Martha." But before we continue, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love knowing how far our stories travel. As we stood there, reunited at last, Jeremiah opened his hands to reveal what he had been carrying. It was a small, intricately carved wooden box. "I found this," he said, "buried beneath the old oak tree where we first declared our love for each other." My heart skipped a beat. That oak tree held so many memories. It was our special place. The box was exquisitely crafted, with patterns that seemed to dance in the fading light. Jeremiah opened it slowly, revealing its contents. A collection of letters I had written to him over the years, letters I thought had been lost to the whims of time. Tears sprang to my eyes as I took in the sight. "You kept them," I whispered, feeling a wave of emotions wash over me. "Not just kept, Martha. I treasured them." "Each word you wrote guided me back to you," Jeremiah said, his voice thick with emotion. The realization that our love had endured through so much, that these letters had been a beacon for Jeremiah, filled me with an indescribable warmth. We spent the next few hours poring over each letter, reminiscing about the moments they captured, the trials we had faced, and the strength of our bond that had only grown stronger with time. But the most shocking thing was yet to come. As we reached the bottom of the box, we found a letter neither of us recognized. It was written in a hurried script, the ink faded with age. The letter revealed a secret that had been buried just as long as the box. It was from Jeremiah's father, confessing to a truth that would change everything we thought we knew about our families and their intertwined past. The evening had turned to night, and the air around us felt charged with anticipation and disbelief. "What does this mean for us?" I asked, turning to Jeremiah, the letter still in my trembling hands. Jeremiah took a deep breath, his eyes reflecting the moonlight. "It means," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "that our journey together is far from over. We have more to discover, not just about our past, but how it will shape our future." As the weight of his words sank in, I realized that this revelation was not an end, but a beginning. A new chapter in our story that promised to be as filled with challenges as it was with love. And at that exact moment, the doorbell rang. We looked at each other, a mix of curiosity and apprehension in our eyes. Who could it be at this late hour? And were they here to add another piece to the puzzle of our past? As we moved towards the door, hand in hand, I felt a sense of unity and purpose with Jeremiah that I had never felt before. Whatever lay on the other side of that door, we would face it together, as we always had. With one last look at each other, Jeremiah opened the door, and we stepped into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with the strength of our love to guide us. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I found myself sitting on the old creaky porch swing of the house where I'd spent the last 7 decades of my life. It was here, in this small town nestled in the heart of Georgia, that I'd lived out my days, woven together with threads of joy, sorrow, and undeniable love. But today, my heart was heavy, laden with the task of revealing a truth that had been buried for far too long. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and the impending rain, a gentle reminder of life's continuous cycle. I patted the empty seat beside me, inviting my grandchildren, who had gathered around with curious and anxious eyes. "Come, sit with me," I beckoned, my voice carrying the weight of the years. "You see, my dears," I began, my voice trembling slightly, "life is a tapestry of stories, some hidden in the shadows, waiting for the light of truth." I took a deep breath, steadying my resolve. "It's time I told you about your great-grandfather, a man of great courage and profound love." As I unfolded the tale of a secret kept for over half a century, their eyes widened in disbelief. I told them of the hardships, the sacrifices, and the unwavering love that had defined our lives. It was a story interlaced with the harsh realities of war, the pain of separation, and the bittersweet reunions that followed. "But why now, Grandma?" my eldest granddaughter asked, her voice laced with confusion and awe. I smiled, a tear trickling down my cheek. "Because, my child, the truth, no matter how difficult, has a way of freeing us. It teaches us forgiveness, nurtures our growth, and guides us toward understanding." As the story came to a close, a palpable silence enveloped us. The night had fully descended, wrapping us in a cloak of stars. I could see the wheels turning in their minds, the emotions playing across their faces. "Grandma," my youngest grandson finally spoke up, breaking the silence. "Your story. It's made me realize how little I know about our own family and how important it is to cherish every moment together." His words warmed my heart, and I reached out, drawing them all into a tight embrace. That's right, my loves. With all its imperfections and secrets, is a beautiful testament to the resilience of the human spirit. We love, we forgive, and we grow stronger together. As we sat there, wrapped in each other's arms, I knew that this moment would be etched in their hearts forever. The truth had not only brought us closer, but it also paved the way for healing and understanding. In the quiet of the night, as I watched my grandchildren return to the house, a sense of peace settled over me. I realized that the stories we leave behind are the legacies that shape the generations to come. And in sharing our truths, we gift them the strength to face their own trials with courage and grace. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.